Hi guys, so this is RF3, the slope, and I'm just going to go through a few of the examples so that you can catch up if you've missed some class time. So whenever you want to find your independent and dependent variables, you're always going to look at what depends on what, right? So here, the time would be your independent, and your distance would be your dependent, because your distance traveled will depend on the time. So at time 0, you actually went 0 kilometers. After 1 hour, this says you went 20 kilometers per hour. So after 1 hour, you went 20 kilometers. After 2, you went 40. After 3, you went 60. After 4, you went 80. After 5, you went 100, and it would actually keep going if the table didn't stop going. Okay, so when you do your graph, you want to label first your x and your y axis, okay? And then this is always going to be the x, and this is always going to be the y. So your x is your independent always. So this is time, and make sure you put its time in what? It's in hours. And then the distance is in kilometers, okay? And then you want to give your axis some numbers. So I have 1 through 5. I want to make the most use of my graph, so I'm just going to skip every 2. Okay, and here I can skip by 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So every 4 gives me 20. Okay, and then I'm just going to match. So 0 goes with 0, 1 goes to 20, 2 goes to 40, 3 goes to 60, 4 goes to 80, 5 goes to 100, 6 goes to 120. I think I counted wrong here because it doesn't look like it should. 1, 2, 3, this should go here actually. And 6 should go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. Okay, then you'll see that this is a really nice straight line. And it would actually keep going because we don't know when the cyclist will stop. Okay, and I decided to put a line through because it is a continuous graph, which means that everything in between each point exists, right? Like we saw in the RF1 section. So now we're actually going to go look at what slope is. Slope is always the rise over the run. Okay, so it's a rate of change. So whenever you pick points on the graph, you have to make sure that it's actually a point that is directly on the vertical, on the horizontal, and on the line. So if I keep going here, I can't pick this point here because it's off the grid. Can't pick this one, it's not on the corner. Keep going, and the next time it hits perfectly, it's going to be right here. Okay? And the slope is going to be your change in y, which means you're up and down, and your over, so it's going to create a fraction, your run, which is a change in x. So it doesn't matter what point you start with, you're just going to go up and down first. So here I'm going to go in this direction, and then I'm going to go meet. So I always want to meet the point to the point, going up and down and side to side. So here I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up 5 means positive 5 as a rise in y. Over, and then I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I went to the right 6, which means positive 6. So 6. Okay, so that's my slope. And slope in math is designated by the letter M. Okay, and I can go the opposite way if I want to. So I could have gone down and back. So I could have gone down 5 and back 6, and that would have given me this. And a negative over a negative is the same thing as a positive over a positive, because two negatives would give you a positive fraction, which is also a positive slope, okay? So whether you go up and over or down and back, it is the exact same thing, okay? So what you need to remember is when you're going up, it's a positive movement, and when you're going down, it's a negative, and that's always going to be over. If you're going to the right, it's positive, and if you're going to the left, it's negative, okay? So it can be any combination of those, except that up and down always is on top, and right and left is always on the bottom. So it might be plus plus, plus minus, minus plus, minus minus. So it can be any combination of that, but this is always on top and this is always on the bottom, okay? All right, so we're moving on here. So we have 4 different types of slope, okay? So we have an uphill slope, so if we're always reading left to right, so if we're going this way, we're gonna be going up the hill, which means a positive slope. Here, we read left to right, so we're going down the hill, which is a negative slope. A zero slope is always going to be just left to right, and an undefined slope is always going to be top and bottom, okay? So a positive slope is going to have a combination of fraction of 2 positives or 2 negatives, okay? That's going to be your slope fraction. A negative is going to be a combination of a positive and a negative. So either one's going to be on the bottom or one's going to be on top. A zero slope is when there's no vertical movements, okay? So if there's no vertical movement, it's 0 on whatever x does. And an undefined, there's no horizontal movement, which means that it's going to be an up and down movement only on a no movement right or left. So that's what your slopes are going to look like, okay? All right, I'm gonna give you just one example of each, and then you can try the rest. So here it says pick 2 points on the line in the grid. So if I'm looking here, okay, and I wanna show you how I'm actually going to pick these 2 points, okay? So if I'm going down the grid here, see how this is the first time it meets everything perfectly? So this is the first point I'm actually going to pick, okay? And then I'm gonna keep going down the line. And I'm gonna go down the line until I find another point where it hits perfectly, okay? So I couldn't pick any other point because these 2, well, I mean, if I keep going, I'll find more, but these are the closest ones that are perfectly on the grid, okay? So I've picked my 2 points. Then I'm gonna look for my vertical change. So from here, I'm gonna go travel. So my vertical change is +1. Okay, so I'm gonna go, my vertical change here is +1. And here, I'm gonna go back 2. So my horizontal change back is a negative, remember? -2. And my slope is my rise over my run, so I'm going to have a +1 over a -2, okay? And it's a negative slope because it's got a negative, only one negative in the fraction, and it also is going downhill, okay? So that is a negative slope, okay? I could have decided to go down and forward if I wanted to. So that would have given me actually a -1 and a +2. But you would have seen that it would have given me the same fraction, okay? Because a 1 over -2 and a -1 over +2, these 2 fractions are exactly the same fraction, okay? All right, so you can pause and you can actually do these 2 and then come back and look at the next example, okay? All right, so let's look at this example here. It's exactly the same thing that we just did. You're gonna pick 2 points, okay, along the line. So this is actually a perfect point because it sits right on the grid. And if I keep going, I don't see one until I hit right here, okay? And again, once I've picked my 2 points, I'm going to count my vertical over my horizontal. So I went up 1, 2, 3. So I went up 3, and I went to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a positive slope, 3 over 5. Okay, you can pause the video here and do the next 3. And come back for the next example. All right, I'm going to make this a little smaller. Okay. So here it's saying plot the following coordinates, join them together, and determine the slope. So these are coordinates, okay? They are different than the slope because a coordinate is just a point on the grid, and it's always x, y. Okay, this is what you guys are used to. The slope is new, but you guys are used to plotting points this way. So you're going to find the point 5, 2, which is right here. It's just a point. It has nothing to do with the slope. And then 2, 3. 2, 3 is right here. So I've plotted my coordinates. It says join them together. So I join them together and then find the slope. And the slope again is up and back, or down and back. So here it's an up of 1 and a back of 3. So my slope is either a positive 1 over negative 3 or negative 1 over positive 3. So it can also be negative 1 over positive 3 if you want. They're the same thing. Okay? So you can pause the video here and do the next 3. Okay. The next example I'm going to give you is how to go from a point and draw a slope. Okay, so here it's saying begin at the point 0, 0, which is right smack dab in the middle of your graph. Then draw the line segment using the following slopes and identify each line by its letter. So let's look at A. The slope says it's 1 over 2, which means it's a up of 1 and over of 2. So I'm going to go up from the 0, 0. I'm going to go up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. And I'm going to keep going until I've reached the end of my graph. Okay? But this only gives me half. What happens if I want to go to the other way? I'm just going to do the opposite. Instead of going up and over, I'm going to go down and back. And you're going to see that just by doing the opposite, I'm still going to be on the same slope, and it's going to create the same line. And so that's A. B says negative 2 over 3. And negative 2 over 3 does not mean I have a negative for the 2 and a negative for the 3. It just means that one of them is negative. And it doesn't matter which one you start with, but I always start with putting the negative on top, which means down of 2 and right of 3. Again, I'm starting right in the middle. I'm going down 2, 1, 2, 3. Down 2, 1, 2, 3. Down 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, up 2, 1, 2, 3. Up 2, 1, 2, 3. So I'm just doing the opposite when I go the opposite way. Okay, and that again gives me a really nice straight line that I'm going to label B. Okay, so for C, it only has a 4, okay? So when it has just a number, a lot of times you'll think that it's going to be a straight line, but it's not, because for it to have a straight line like this or like this, it needs to have a 0, either 0 over 4 or 4 over 0. This is 4, which means that it's actually 4 over 1, because 4 divided by 1 is still 4, okay? So whenever you see a number, okay, not 0, whenever you see a number, just put it over 1 just to get your slope. Okay, so this is going to be up of 4 and right of 1. So again, we're starting right here, and we're going to go up 4 over 1, up 4 over 1. And then if I want to go the opposite, I go down 4, back 1, down 4, back 1. So that gives me another straight line, and I'm going to call it C. Okay, so you can pause there and do number 2. All right, so the next example I'm going to give you on this video, and that'll be the end of this video, is what happens when I'm asking you to do a slope through a point, okay? So the point is actually where you're going to start. Here, we started at 0, 0, but here, because we needed to pass through this point, this is actually going to be the starting point. So -2, -1. That's our starting point. My slope is 4, so again, when you just see a number, remember to put it over 1. I'm going to go from this new starting point, I'm going to go up 4, over 1, and again, I'm going to fill my graph. I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, I'm going to go, I can't count here, guys. Just give me a second. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, and then back. 1. Okay, and that, you should always use a straight edge. Okay, and that gives you your line. Okay, so you should have enough information to be able to do the rest of this.